Sport Clips Haircuts Holiday Halftime Giveaway has cash for you this holiday season. Sport Clips is giving away $500 every day until December 16th. Visit sportclips.com/holiday to enter for your chance to win. No purchase necessary. Ends 12/16. Must be 18 or older to enter. Subject to official rules at sportclips.com/holiday. Void where prohibited.
Penn State has won 9 straight, the Big Ten title, and are ranked 5th in the nation. USC awaits winners of 8 in a row. The Rose Bowl game presented by Northwestern Mutual, January 2nd at 5 Eastern on ESPN Radio. This is Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
I've always given the utmost respect to everyone, all my peers, people that have laid the path for me and laid the path for, coaches and players and things of that nature. I've always given respect.
I love what the Red Sox did today. They have David Price, they have Rick Porcello, and now Chris Sale.
We're absolutely thrilled to have Chris Sale on board with us. We feel it gives us a chance to win now.
What the Red Sox did really makes them the clear best team in the division and probably the best team in the American League.
Now, here's Mike and Mike.
And to think they almost didn't have these winter meetings. We are Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Baseball's hot stove is burning up, especially in Boston. Lots going on there. All the football, of course. Phil Jackson doesn't speak often, but when he does, he sets it off. He has a lot to say about a lot of things, and we'll get into those in just a matter of moments. Big fella, how are we doing on this Wednesday?
Doing well. When we talk about the money part of that big trade, it seems like the Red Sox got a sale on a guy named Sale. Get it?
Well done.
Get it?
Does he come with scissors?
Did that. Scissors and, possibility of yelling at your GM. There's a whole bag that comes with that.
Cutting up his jersey.
That we'll get into. But no, all good with me. Good day. Dealing with a little bit of snow again out here. Did you know this snow was coming?
I did not, but it did not snow on my drive-in. On Monday I was late getting here because there was snow that I did not know was coming.
That always amazes us that you don't know, because in Connecticut, the most ridiculous state there is as far as weather coverage. If a flake falls, they delay school for 2 hours. It's embarrassing. But they were talking about this storm on Monday for like weeks, because that's what they do here. And, of course, you didn't hear it.
Yeah, somehow I managed to, that news managed to elude me.
Yeah.
Today, all I had was a touch of rain on my drive.
There you go.
So
your day yesterday, good?
Problems. I had a very good day yesterday. I actually wanted to just quickly start by saying thank you to somebody, and he's someone that everyone will know. And I just want to give you an indication of what an extraordinarily nice guy Seth Meyers is. So for weeks and weeks, while I was not aware of the snow that was coming, I was aware that I was supposed to host a luncheon yesterday in Manhattan with Pat Fitzgerald, the football coach from Northwestern. When the season ended, there was like an event for New York area alums, just a nice thing.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
The football coach was going to
slapping, handshaking type of a deal, yeah.
All the schools, do it with the coach. And as an alum, I was there. I was going to interview Pat, just, very informally and have fun. And because of, it's a long story, but because of the Northwestern is going into the Pinstripe Bowl.
Yes, they are.
Where they're going to play in Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, literally, he had a commitment 2 days before this luncheon. He was out. We lost Pat. They called me. They said, the Pat Fitzgerald luncheon you're doing? Yeah. We've lost Pat.
It's now just a luncheon.
Yeah. And I was really concerned that the people that were coming out to see Pat Fitzgerald were going to be disappointed. They were like, well, Greenie, you can just go up there and talk a little. And I was willing to do that.
But they were obviously going to be disappointed when the headline name is not there.
Correct. And so many of you know that Seth Meyers went to Northwestern. And as luck would have it, this luncheon was right near where he tapes his show. So I just sent him a note. I said, listen, man, I know you're an extraordinarily busy guy. Could you possibly pop in and just surprise the guests? I didn't tell anybody that he was coming. And like 10 minutes into my being up there speaking, Seth Meyers walks in the door. And everyone loved it. And he just told 10 or 15 minutes worth of really funny stories. And he was just great. So my thanks to him. And it's just I just wanted everyone, and I said to him, can I get you over there? Can I get you some security? He said, nah, I'm fine. And he literally just walks in the door by himself.
Right. So it worked out. He was in the same building, correct?
The luncheon happened to be in the same building where he tapes his show.
So let me ask you, it's a great story.
Yeah.
It's a very cool thing.
Yeah.
If he was not in the same building, would he have shown up?
Listen, I'd like to think he would. He's just a good guy. He's loyal to his school.
Not a chance.
I think he does.
Not a chance.
Now you're taking the opportunity to disparage a fine man, a great American.
An excellent man.
And you're taking a lovely story and you're turning it into your own little making fun of it story.
I'm just
for no reason.
I'm just saying.
Would Regis Philbin do that? I'm asking you. I'm just thinking of famous Notre Dame alums. Is Regis walking out of his show to come to
if it's in the same building, there's a really good chance if it's at the same building.
Give me some more famous Notre Dame alums. Come on, throw them at me.
More famous Notre Dame alums?
Give me more. I'm just looking for more. Give me some more people. I'm trying to throw names at you here.
Joe Montana?
Okay, well, but those are all the athletes. Yes, everyone knows all the football players that went to Notre Dame.
Right.
I was just trying to think. He comes to the lunch out of nowhere.
Regis
is
a good one in the entertainment world.
Perfect example.
Yes, if it were in that building, I think Regis would have walked over.
I don't think so.
If it's cross town.
I don't think Regis shows up for you.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
I don't think he does.
Absolutely shows up.
Nope.
But if it's cross town, I don't think he does. Just as I think if it's next door, I don't think Seth Meyers comes over.
I think he does.
No,
unless
there's an indoor walkway.
He does. He's very averse to being outdoors. Anyway,
I'm kidding. That's a cool story.
It was very nice of him to do, and it's kind of saved the day. So it was a lot of fun. That was my day yesterday. Condoleezza Rice. Is Condoleezza Rice coming across the street? Is she coming up there to your lunch?
Coming across the street. He was in the same
building. Coming upstairs?
Yes.
For the lunch?
Absolutely.
Hannah Storm. Right. Hannah Storm's coming upstairs?
Absolutely. Hannah and I are hosting an event tonight that you were supposed to be at in New York.
Is it outdoors?
No, it's indoors.
We're at outdoors. I'm telling you right now.
It's indoors, and we're both going to be there.
Okay. This was a ridiculous start to the show. Let's get to some sports.
Shows you how much we got going on today.
I know. That's our lives for you. All right, John Wall, Mike, jumping into these. It's been a season, an early NBA season filled with insane performances, just enormous individual performances. And last night, in a Washington loss to Orlando, John Wall scored 52 points.
Yep, his 52 points, most in a Wizards loss since Hall of Famer Earl LaPearl scored 56 in a loss against the Lakers back in 1968. You know, we just come off of Klay Thompson's 60 points. John Wall had 52. How about the differences in them? Unassisted field goals, Klay Thompson had 1. John Wall had 15. Klay Thompson touched the ball 52 times. John Wall touched it 102 times. So they scored their points in different ways, but they both scored a lot of points.
Did you see the numbers that came out? I started seeing them after our show, so we didn't have them in the show yesterday. But the numbers on just how much time Klay Thompson had the ball in his hands.
I think it was 90 seconds. I think it was a total of 90-some seconds in his hands.
He had almost no dribbles. He dribbled the ball 11 times on his 21 field goals.
The numbers were ridiculous,
Let me say that again. Klay Thompson made 21 field goals the other night. He dribbled the ball 11 times. It's almost impossible to believe. And that can only happen, A, on a team that is unselfish and moves the ball like that, but also, B, on a team that has that many threats to score on the floor at any given time. All right, elsewhere, what a doubleheader we got for you here tonight. The Cavs and the Knicks from the Garden as at 8 Eastern on ESPN, and we're going to get into the Phil Jackson, LeBron stuff in a second, and then it's followed by the Warriors and the Clippers, which is a pretty interesting little rivalry out west.
No, I would say that everybody definitely wants to turn that into. Do we consider that a rivalry? Is it there?
It's a rivalry because they don't like each other.
Yeah, we obviously know Cleveland and the Warriors because of the last two finals, but this in the same conference, would it be? Are they getting there? Are we saying they're right? Or is it, the Warriors and the Spurs? I mean, what?
Yeah, the Warriors and Clippers just don't like each other. They always seem to get into, fights and stare downs and things like that when they play each other. Since the Warriors became the Warriors, they haven't played each other in the playoffs. The Clippers beat the Warriors in the playoffs the year before they won the championship, but Golden State then wasn't what Golden State is now. I believe Mark Jackson was still the coach. That would have been Mark Jackson's last game as coach.
And as far as the other game, LeBron's won each of the 4 games at Madison Square Garden since coming back to Cleveland and has won his last 5 games there overall.
Off the top.
Baseball, as we alluded to. Chris Sale has changed the color of his socks, going from Chicago to Boston. The 5-time All-Star is now a Red Sox.
Yeah, pretty nice little rotation there with Porcello, Price, and Sale. And Sale, as I mentioned, as a Sale, he's got basically, if the options are picked up, 3 years and $38 million. He's costing them $12 million this year. That puts him 4th, actually, as far as money's going to him on this Red Sox rotation. So they got him at a cheap money price. There is a thought over some trades that they've made that they've given up a whole heck of a lot from their farm system in the future for this.
Well, they gave up the guy who I believe is the number one prospect in all of baseball in this trade. Sale is a great pitcher.
Yeah, he is. Oh, absolutely is.
But he has one of the strangest deliveries. He has the kind of mechanics that make you worry like crazy. We'll talk to Buster about that a little bit later. All right, if you are interested in women's college basketball, there will be no bigger game all year long than the one that will be played tonight. Golic and your beloved home away from home is South Bend.
Yep, South Bend, number 1 versus number 2. UConn against Notre Dame. UConn has won, I believe,
82?
No, UConn has won that. I think UConn has won the last 6 against Notre Dame. Before that, Notre Dame had won 4 in a row against UConn. But the streaks UConn has are ridiculous.
Yeah, they've won 82 consecutive games.
They're just trying to catch them. 5 straight they have won against Notre Dame. They're just trying to catch their own streaks at this point. But tonight, you know what? They go down.
You think Notre Dame wins?
Yes, I do.
All right. It'll be interesting to watch. The game is on tonight, 7 o'clock Eastern time on ESPN2. And then finally this morning.
Off the top. It's your birthday.
A sports legend is celebrating a birthday today. And many of us who judge the passage of time by sports, like myself, feel a little bit older with the news that Larry Bird is 60 years old today.
It's unbelievable. I mean, certainly makes me feel older as well. I
talk about Larry Bird and players of that generation to my kids the way my dad would talk to me about. We can lose the music, by the way. The way my dad would talk to me about players, that I think of as being old, old timers
from his
Jerry West and Oscar Robertson and players like that. That was his.
Bird was ours.
Bird. There may have been better players in basketball history than Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. But I would argue there may not have ever been more significant players in basketball history than Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. I know everyone will immediately go to Michael. And Michael walked in on a carpet that Larry and Magic had laid before him and set the table for someone like Michael to come along. And Jordan was the greatest player of the three historically. He became the most popular. He became probably the most popular athlete that ever lived. But when Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, what they did to elevate college basketball, the game of basketball, then came into the NBA and revitalized the Celtics-Lakers rivalry and made it what it was in the 80s. Before Michael's Bulls were doing anything in the 90s, Michael was just a great individual show. Michael was just a scoring machine, a dunking machine, and a phenomenally charismatic young star. But basketball greatness was in L.A. and in Boston, in Magic and Larry, and it never, ever has been better than that.
Right in my wheelhouse, when they met in college in 79, I'm 17 years old. I mean, so this is right. I'm getting to enjoy all this, and as they go into the NBA, Larry Bird, some numbers, is the last player to win 3 straight NBA awards. He's one of 3 players to win at least 3 times in a row, along with Will Chamberlain and Bill Russell. He is, 5th on the 5th all-time as far as triple-doubles with 59. Russell Westbrook is 11 behind him, and he's 6th, which means by next week, Russell Westbrook will be ahead of him.
Because Larry Bird is 60 and Russell Westbrook is 26.
And Russell Westbrook is getting a triple-double every single time he goes out, so that's why I say he's going to pass him next week.
And Larry's not adding any to his total.
No, he is not.
But here's the thing about Larry Bird is that, he was – it's kind of hard to quantify the greatness of Bird because – now, when we just start counting rings and we start, it's become about LeBron and Michael, and you're talking about this extraordinarily small group. There is no list. I'll just say it this way, in my opinion as a basketball fan. Now, I admire Oscar Robertson. I admire Jerry West. I admire Bill Russell. I admire Will Chamberlain. I didn't see them play. So it's very hard. You have to sort of sometimes in your own life, and this one now will be exclusively based for everyone on how old they are. I can really more aptly compare people to others that I saw play. I saw Larry Bird's entire career. I remember his senior season at Indiana State like it was yesterday. They went through the whole year. They never lost a game. They were unbeaten going into the final game against Michigan State with Magic and Kelser and those guys. You cannot make a list of the greatest players of all time without putting Larry Bird on it. If you don't put Larry Bird on it, then I discount your list. It's not worth discussing.
No, listen, I agree. And one of the things about him, obviously, he was a great player in an era where it was needed as well. It was a different brand of basketball, and we've talked about this, is how tough he was. He was and he played with some tough players, obviously, on his own team. But as I said, that was an era of toughness as well. And he was as tough and would do things that he needed. That's what I would say. He did what was needed to be done on the court, whether it pushed the line, crossed the line, whatever. But that's how you played back then, and he was one of the best at it to go along with being a great player.
He could shoot it as well as anybody ever. He was as good a passing forward. I would say, like Romano said, he was the greatest passing forward of all time. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say LeBron James is the greatest passing forward of all time.
I would agree.
Even though I consider LeBron James to be a point guard.
Right.
He's just trapped in the body of a power forward.
He's going down as a forward. Yeah.
But if you include LeBron, I would put LeBron at number one and Bird at number two. But those teams were unbelievable, and those matchups. Basketball. Listen, Cleveland and Golden State are giving you a little something like that now. They've got the legends on each side. They've got back-to-back meetings in the finals. I mean, the basketball in the 80s, for all the people who are our age, romanticize the 80s like crazy, and rightly so. The sport was unbelievable in the 80s. The best thing about basketball in the 80s was the Lakers and the Celtics.
That's exactly
the
right.
best thing.
You had those matchups, and then it went to the domination of the Bulls, so you went to one team dominating, and you're like, oh, well, if you're caught in the LeBron or in the Michael Jordan wake, oh, well, bad timing for you. But before that, it was one of the Lakers and the Celtics going to meet.
And Magic Johnson versus Larry Bird has got to go down as one of the two or three greatest rivalries in the history of American sports. I think when you consider that they would go head-to-head, when you consider that they met in college, I think that counts.
Yeah.
They played each other for the national championship in college and then met in the NBA as many times as they did. They met in the finals in 84, 85, and 87. Obviously, Russell and Chamberlain. I think that Martina Navratilova and Chris Evert. Ali Frazier has something sort of magical to it that is larger than life.
It does.
And these two guys, those are the greatest rivalries in the history of American sport.
Yeah, I'm sure we're leaving out some. That's a fun question to ask as well to get out there. But there's no doubt that this is right there.
Happy birthday, Larry Bird. It's what everyone's talking about. Brought to you by Uber. Get your side hustle on. Start driving with Uber, and you can earn extra cash whenever you want. Sign up today at uber.com/drive now. That's uber.com/drive now. Okay, so LeBron James and the Cavaliers are in New York to play the Knicks, which has revived all of the conversation that came up, whatever it was, 2 weeks ago or so, when Phil Jackson did the interview with Jackie McMullen, in which he used the word posse to describe LeBron James' friends who've been with him since high school, since his childhood, and are now business associates, and many of whom have created sort of a business empire unto themselves. And Phil Jackson he greatly upset Maverick Carter, and he greatly upset LeBron, and he set off a big conversation that went all over the place. Phil Jackson now has done an interview with CBS Sports. Let me find it here. I had it. Here we go. Has done an interview with CBS Sports Network in which he has said he does regret having said what he said. Let me read you the quotes. That's a topic I'm not going to discuss because, one, we are not supposed to discuss other teams' players in this position that I have here, so I violated one of the tenets of our thing. The obvious thing is the word itself carries connotation, and I just don't understand that part of it, the word. So I guess word choice could be something I regret. But talking about other teams' players, that's out of the box.
Well,
go ahead.
That's what he seems to be. He doesn't seem to be apologizing for the word. Because, as he said, so I guess word choice could be something I could regret. He didn't say, I regret that. He just said he doesn't understand why the connotation is what it is. So it doesn't sound like we're parsing words here, and it's ridiculous.
I don't believe we're parsing words. I'll tell you why we're not parsing words. Because here's the deal. I don't think anyone who knows anything about the history of Phil Jackson believes that he meant that, or that he is in his own way a racist, or he meant that to have racial connotations, right? I don't believe that. Anyone who knows anything about Phil's life going back to the 60s does not believe that, I don't think. But Phil himself, in his book, we read it on the air, wrote his own definition of posse. So he used the term posse to sort of knock people down, hangers on, like just this crew of people who just hang around these superstars.
Right.
And that is what LeBron and his guys took offense to.
Right.
That's the part of it that he took offense to. So Phil can say, well, the word itself carries connotation. Phil, you defined the connotation.
Yeah.
He wrote it himself in his book. So he knows what the connotation he meant was because he's the one who defined it.
We're saying the same thing. That's what I'm saying. He's not apologizing for using the word.
Right.
That's the thing that offended LeBron and those guys so much. He's apologizing, saying he broke the rule that you don't talk about another team's player. And he kind of said, well, maybe I should have maybe it's this word I don't understand. That you read that and you're like, okay, Phil. Yeah, you've really done nothing here.
Right. So, so you and I agree, but we don't agree with him.
Oh,
no.
No.
For him to say the word itself carries a connotation, I don't understand that.
You defined it, Phil.
He defined it himself.
Yes.
So that's the part of it where it kind of loses me. Look, I am predisposed to like Phil Jackson. I want to side with him because I liked him as a player, and I liked him very much when I covered him for years in Chicago. I think he's a very smart guy. I think he's a good guy. But in this particular case, he's the one who defined the word. Yeah. So I don't think he can say, well, it obviously carries a connotation I don't understand. I believe he's the one who defined the word.
Completely agree.
Yeah,
completely agree.
That one I don't. I don't think that one passes the smell test.
He's hanging on you don't talk about another team's player. I broke that rule. You know when
that one too.
That one too. But in the midst of this conversation of the two things, that's not the one LeBron and Maverick and his gang are worried about. You know, his guy. Because listen, as I said before, these guys have done an incredible job. You know, I understand what Phil was saying in the beginning because that is a word that I've really only heard in basketball, and that was my thought of it, what Phil had said of people, that hang around or hang on. And LeBron's group, let me tell you, they have really what they've done, and even expanding past LeBron, and we've talked about this before, they've done an incredible job. So I can absolutely see how they would have been offended by that. And for Phil to talk about it now and say, kind of give an apology for it, but he doesn't still acknowledge that LeBron's guys are doing their thing and doing it incredibly well and expanding beyond LeBron as well. He didn't really acknowledge that at all. So I have to believe for LeBron and Maverick and those guys, that fell on deaf ears.
LeBron was asked if he wanted to get together with Phil and talk about it in New York. He said no. Phil was asked in this interview with CBS, does he want to talk to LeBron? He said, quote, it's water under the bridge. I don't think there was anybody hurt or harmed in this situation. I think LeBron's friend obviously had an issue with it. We just let it go. It's not enough to talk about it. Well, LeBron also clearly had an issue with it. It wasn't just Maverick who had an issue with it. LeBron had an issue. Phil, that doesn't have to bother Phil if he doesn't want it to bother Phil. So we'll see. I mean, it certainly sets the stage for an interesting night tonight. There's a lot more there to talk about, and we'll do it as we continue this morning on Mike and Mike. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. Last year, over 3 million drivers switched to Progressive. Call or click today. Find out if you could save. We have a lot of hoops to get to as the morning continues. But coming up next, Golic, that sound you heard yesterday was that of a very boisterous man shouting loudly from his grave. And I will tell you who right after this word from Pennzoil. Golic, Pennzoil Synthetics with Pure Plus technology make this the time for performance. Now that we're deep into fall and there's a slight chill in the air, you can almost hear the fight song starting to play all over the country.
College football season is all about showing passion and protecting your turf. When it comes to protection, you can count on Pennzoil. So when you get up Saturday morning, start pulling together tailgate supplies, you got bigger things to worry about than whether your car is going to make it to the stadium. Give your car the protection and performance it deserves with Pennzoil Synthetics. Spend your fall hoping your team performs as well as your engine. Visit Pennzoil.com. Make the switch today. Head into a Firestone Complete Auto Care or Tires Plus near you to make the switch. Back after this, Mike and Mike.
To the circle. Wall left elbow drives. Gets to the restricted ranks and what? He wheels the shot up and scores beyond the fouls from 115-106. And with 3:43 to go, John Wall now has matched his career high with 47 points.
WNEW, the play-by-play. John Wall was just getting started. Wizards lose to the Magic, but Wall scored a career-high 52 points, continuing what's been a season filled with all sorts of huge individual performances. We were just talking about it, and will with Buster Olney again in a second. The Red Sox have acquired pitcher Chris Sale from the White Sox in exchange for 4 prospects, one of whom is said to be maybe the best prospect in all of baseball right now. And an NBA doubleheader tonight on ESPN, and watch ESPN. Great games. Cavs and the Knicks, so LeBron at the Garden, and then the Warriors and the Clippers. That's tonight on ESPN. SportsCenter with Mike and Mike is brought to you by 1-800-Flowers.
This holiday season, skip the gift guessing games. Visit 1-800-Flowers.com. They've got a bouquet she's guaranteed to love. Order 30 red and white holiday tulips today for only $30. Just go to 1-800-Flowers.com, click the radio icon, enter the code Mike. 1-800-Flowers.com, enter the code Mike.
We'll have Buster Olney in a second, but we also have this breaking news that's just coming in. Sources telling ESPN that Oregon has found its new football coach, Mike, and that coach is Willie Taggart from the University of South Florida. He will replace Mark Helfrich, who was fired by Oregon a week ago after going 4-8 overall. Taggart had been at USF for 4 seasons, increasing his win total from 2 in his first year to 4 and then 8. This past year, they were 10-2. That was the best in school history. He was an assistant at Stanford from 2007 to 2009. Yeah. He was the head coach at Western Kentucky. He apparently he got a vote of confidence, if you will, from Tony Dungy.
Well, yeah, that's it. Dungy's kid had gone to Oregon, but then he transferred to South Florida to play under Taggart. Tony Dungy really believes in this guy, and then Tony Dungy spoke on behalf of Taggart to Oregon. Whenever you have Tony Dungy speaking on your behalf, sure. Obviously it's a pretty good thing.
Yeah, helps. So there you have it. Oregon finds its man. We'll talk about that more as we continue. But right now, let's talk about the man who's heading to Boston. That is Chris Sale, who brings that unusual delivery and extraordinary stuff and a fascinating personality to a Red Sox team that now clearly, I think, has the best top of the rotation in the American League. Buster Olney's at the winter meetings, and he joins us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Good morning, Robert.
What's going on, guys?
Well, I mean, obviously this deal is what's going on. I heard a lot of talk about the prospect that they sent in the other direction as well. Give us your thought on the trade.
Well, you're right in the way you catch that, it looks like the Red Sox have the best rotation. It looks like on paper they have the best team. There's no question about that. With David Ortiz still in their lineup last year, they outscored the American League by 101 runs last year. Now you add to a rotation which already has the reigning Cy Young Award winner Rick Porcello and former Cy Young Award winner David Price and all-star Stephen Wright, Eduardo Rodriguez. You add Chris Sale, and yesterday they had made a very aggressive under-the-radar trade for their bullpen in Tyler Thornburg, and this trade clearly makes the Red Sox favorites in the American League East. And there's also no question in the last 13 months. The Red Sox have traded a huge number of high-end prospects. Yohan Moncada, who's a headliner that you referred to, and he's like a free safety playing baseball. Great athlete, big power, tons of speed. The Red Sox paid $63 million to get him. So for the Chicago White Sox, the return in this trade with Moncada, pitcher Michael Kopech, who's been clocked as high as 105 miles an hour, a great return for them.
Going back to what they gave up, I mean, is this just something that you do for the now? And obviously, if it pays off, it does. But, I mean, is there a little bit of breath holding as to if this doesn't work, what we gave up for this?
Well, I can tell you this. There are definitely teams in baseball that would not have thought about giving up these 2 prospects in this trade, as well as the other prospects that they gave up in trades with San Diego in the last calendar year, because most teams now absolutely cling to their prospects. They hoard their prospects. The Red Sox, on the other hand, in the last 13 months, they're going all in. And you have to give credit to Ben Cherington. He used to be the general manager of the Red Sox. He built up this incredible stable of prospects that Dave Dombrowski is now using as he tries to build a championship team.
Mike and Mike presented by, Progressive Insurance. And Buster's with us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. It's just fascinating to see, and I was alluding to this right before the Sports Center, the way the balance of power shifts and the perception shifts from time to time. The quotes from Brian Cashman yesterday I thought were interesting. Mike, did you see this? He called the Boston Red Sox.
Yes, he did. Oh, yeah.
The Warriors of baseball. He said, quote, Boston is the Golden State Warriors of baseball now. If this is the NBA, we, meaning the Yankees, are in the pack of contenders looking to take Golden State down. And when I said in my tease, that sound you heard was a very boisterous man shouting loudly from the grave. I don't think George Steinbrenner would have liked that quote, regardless of whether it's true or not. Buster, agree or disagree?
Totally agree with you. And knowing George Steinbrenner, a trade for someone as prominent as Chris Sale would have spurred a call to action. You know, today the Yankees would be looking to acquire 2 All-Stars in trades out to the Red Sox. But the Yankees are in a different place in terms of how measured they are under Hal Steinbrenner. And on top of that, when I saw that quote from Brian, I laughed because I've known him for 20 years, and he's been tempered by the baseball gods enough to know that no matter what deal you make, you always play up the potential of your opponents, and you play down your own potential to put the pressure on them and take the pressure off you.
How close, because all we heard about the sale was it was going to Washington. How close was that to being done before the Red Sox swooped in?
Well, the Red Sox and the White Sox had trade talks about Chris Sale dating back to before the trade deadline, and they continued those after the CBA terms were announced last week. They picked up the threads on that on Friday. And I wouldn't call it a conspiracy theory. Let's just call it the thought with other teams is that that information about the Nationals being close to a trade was very well timed out in terms of how it got out for the White Sox, because after that information came out that the Nationals are really close, they might get Chris Sale. That allowed the White Sox to go back to the Red Sox and to say to them, look, we've got a deal out there. We're ready to move unless you give us exactly what we want. And so on Tuesday morning, the White Sox and the Red Sox talked again, finished out the deal, and at 11:30, the White Sox had 2 great offers in hand to choose from. Mike
and Buster Olney, who is a long-standing member of the Baseball Writers Association of America. And I wanted to ask you one quick sort of off-the-topic question about that. Buried amidst all of this news yesterday was a story that I saw that said that going forward, the baseball writers' ballots for the Hall of Fame are going to all be made public. In the past, that's always been something you could choose to make public. You didn't have to. Now they're all going to be made public. And I would just be curious, Buster, if you would guess that will have any impact at all on the chances of, let's just call them the steroid guys, and we all know who we're talking about, on the chances of those guys ever getting into the Hall of Fame.
I don't necessarily think that rule change, which was something that should have been in place years and years ago, will necessarily improve their chances. But I do think that we are seeing a glacial-type softening, melting of the feeling about this, the Roger Clemens and the Barry Bonds, players like that, because I think over time you're seeing writers look at the ballot with more perspective as they realize that in all likelihood they probably have already voted in a former PED user, and now some of the people who were in management, like Bud Selig, are also being voted in. And as we talked about in the past, the whole institution of baseball, including the media members, contributed to the rise of the steroid problem.
It's Buster Olney with us whenever we need him down at the winter meetings. Thank you, Robert. See you soon.
See you guys.
It's our buddy Buster Olney, again, the huge deal. And I found that interesting yesterday because I have come 180 degrees. I've said this before on this show. I don't think changing your mind is a bad thing. I don't think that's a sign of weakness or flip-flopping. I think it's a sign of open-mindedness. In the earliest days of my understanding of the steroid problem in baseball, my reaction was, get them all out. I don't want anyone in the Hall of Fame. I want every one of these guys banned for life. And then as time has gone by and I've come to understand a lot more about what happened and why it happened and how widespread it was and everything, I've completely changed my mind to where I do believe those guys, the best players of that era, should absolutely be in the Hall of Fame. So I'm just wondering, Mike, now that these ballots are going to be public going forward, it's a small change, but it's a change.
Yes, it is.
Do you think that will have an impact on the chances that Clemens and Bonds, who were the biggest of them, get in?
A lot of going public, I don't know. I still think it has to be a mindset. I don't think going public. I understand what you're saying, but it has to be a mindset of the voters that are going to do what you did. because I've always, and many will say it because I use them. They'll say, "Oh, you use them, so you don't care." And it's not that I don't care. It's just
you just had a different understanding.
Yeah,
of
that's
it.
exactly right. But until the writers have your train of thought that says I'm against it, which they are, but then come around to, well, whatever the circumstances may be, if their numbers say it, we're going to put them in. Nothing's going to, whether the vote's public or not. Their mindset has to change.
John Gruden is on the way with Mike and Mike after a word from ZipRecruiter. Are you a business owner? If so, do you spend too much time hiring? Are you looking for better quality candidates?
ZipRecruiter makes hiring fast and easy with one click. Post your job to more than 200 job sites, top job sites at that. ZipRecruiter identifies top candidates, notifies them to apply to your job all within minutes. Use ZipRecruiter's easy-to-use dashboard to screen and evaluate candidates all in one place. You can see why over 1 million employers have joined ZipRecruiter's award-winning service for help with their hiring. And right now, listeners and viewers can post for free with this exclusive offer. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/Mike. That's ZipRecruiter.com/Mike. One more time to try ZipRecruiter for free. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/Mike. We're back after this, Mike and Mike.
Start your day with Barbasol Shaving Cream, America's leader for close comfort.
Mike and Mike and all the Twitter through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. Can't make it to your loved one's Christmas celebration? Well, with 1-800-Flowers.com, you can still send your love with a dozen stunning roses, plus an extra bouquet and vase for just $29.99. Go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. Some of the Twitter, again, talking about the Red Sox and what is the value of a prospect? What's giving up too much in a deal? Brett tweets, the Red Sox have become what the Yankees once were. I suppose that's true. The Dodgers have sort of displaced that.
Yes, they have.
And I will go back to what we were saying a moment ago as the rest of the country joins us. If you win one championship with it, it was worth it.
Worth it. It's absolutely worth it. But it's an interesting point about, becoming one of those teams that spends the money, has the money to spend the money. Now, again, you can spend it in baseball. It's, it's football with that hard cap where you can't go over it. The other sports, you pay for that. So you can spend the money if you want, and we see more teams doing it.
Now, the dream scenario, of course, is the one they have in Chicago, where you went out, you got all these prospects, you didn't trade any of them, you brought them all up basically together, and they won the World Series, right? If you have a bunch of guys who are 24 years old and you're the best team in baseball, but that's an almost impossible situation to recreate.
It is. One of the other quick comparisons to that in football would be to strike gold with a guy like Russell Wilson, a guy you're not paying that big money for, that top pick, where it's not a huge cap hit early on, but it's a way bigger cap than a third-round pick, where he's making $500,000 a few years ago, and you have the ability to re-sign guys around.
Who is that team right now? The Dallas Cowboys.
The Dallas Cowboys.
All of a sudden,
with two guys, with Dak I know Zeke was a fifth pick overall, but you have some years before you have to pay him. But Dak is the better representation there of a guy who's making maybe a little over minimum.
And then on Larry Bird's birthday again, Larry Bird is 60 today. Carlton tweets at us, Larry Bird, better shooter, better rebounder, better intangibles. LeBron, just better athlete. If by that you're trying to say you believe Larry Bird is a greater player than LeBron James, I'm going to disagree completely.
I'm going to disagree. I am as well.
Larry Bird is one of the absolute greatest players of all time. He's in the top 10. LeBron James, I think, is in the top 2 or 3. Was Bird a better shooter? Yes. Was he a better rebounder? Yeah, I mean, maybe. He played a different spot on the floor. He wasn't out guarding guys away from the basket the way LeBron is doing. Better intangibles? Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, that's – see, this is the thing. One of the I don't want to get myself sidetracked into all of that. What does that mean? How do you have better intangibles than LeBron James? Everywhere he goes, he makes everybody better. He's the most unselfish superstar in the world. Every single teammate of his, they live to dance. They dance together.
Yeah. You never hear a guy get yelled at more for passing than LeBron.
I mean, there are no better intangibles than that, and yet people try to find ways. I've never seen a superstar in my life that people went out of their way to criticize the way they go out of their way to criticize LeBron James. Okay, anyway, Mike and Mike, we are our Sports Center brought to you by DXL, really delivering this holidays with deals from 30 to 50% off throughout the store. All the styles and brands you love. Waist size 38 and up in one awesome store. Get to your nearby DXL store today or check them out online at destinationxl.com. John Gruden in 10 minutes. He did the Jets and Colts the other night, or as I'm describing it, the utter disaster that was the other night. We still couldn't find a decent bag. My mother called me yesterday and said they can't find a decent bag to put on your head, Michael. Either they had a bag that was too small or a bag that was too big. I just want to wear a bag on my head.
Yeah.
Is that too much to ask?
Seems to be.
But Todd Bowles said two things yesterday, Mike, that I need some help with. The one that seems to be getting the most attention is that he says he miscommunicated his quarterback change, which is to say, basically in his own words, he was too busy yelling at his team for how awful they were to tell Ryan Fitzpatrick that he was making a quarterback change.
Yeah, and to be specific, not the quarterback change at halftime, the quarterback change for the rest of the year.
Right.
This was after the game. Todd Bowles was wearing out his team, and they had to do the presser, and Fitzpatrick was almost caught off guard because, it turns out, it seems it was an assistant coach who told him, you're basically benched for the rest of the year. It was not Todd Bowles who told him, and Todd Bowles said that was a miscommunication on my part. I was doing other things, meaning he was reaming out the team to tell Fitzpatrick before he had to go in front of the media.
Right, but then the point is that Bowles then went and told the media.
Yes.
So he told the media before Fitzpatrick, in theory, knew, and that put everyone in a terrible situation. In my opinion, as far as the mishandling of the quarterback situation this season goes, this is very low on the list.
Yeah, I would agree.
Very low on my list of complaints of the way the quarterback situation has been handled. I understand what he's saying.
Yes.
Fitzpatrick is a pro. He deserves to have been told that.
But we're not going to hang our hat on that.
Well, on the list of things, I mean, it's a move that should have been made 6 weeks ago.
Right.
So I'm not going to make a big deal of that. And then the next thing he said was, having looked at the film, because initially he said there wasn't a lot of effort out there. He then said, having looked at the film, he changed his mind. He doesn't think it was a lack of effort. It was just a lot of boneheaded mistakes. Like, let me ask you.
Yep.
This was their 12th game of the season. Which is worse? Which is worse, for the coach to say, my team made so many mistakes that the first two drives of the game, the opposing offense was basically playing against air. Those were mistakes, or there was a lack of effort. I don't know which is more damning.
Well, you can look at it a couple of ways. You can say all the mistakes, the boneheaded mistakes in the game. You can say guys, just weren't ready to play, gave lack of effort, or how we said early on. Or you go to what I talked about, preparing all week. When you make boneheaded mistakes, maybe you didn't prepare during the week, and then who is that on? That's on everybody. That's on, as I've always said, and I will never change my mind, the majority goes on the players. The majority goes on the players to prepare themselves to play. But if it goes to a total team effort of preparation during the week from coaches on down, there's a whole lot of people that need to look in the mirror. Mistakes are made on Sundays a lot of times for a reason, whether it's that day or what went on during the week or what was let go during the week or what was not emphasized either by coaches or players during the week. It can be a long-reaching thing.
Look at John Gruden's thoughts on that and more. He'll join us next. Stay there, Mike and Mike.
The holiday season is upon us, and it's time to get serious about your shopping. Never fear, Sport Clips Haircuts Holiday Halftime Giveaway is here. Finish off your gift list or splurge on yourself because Sport Clips is giving away $500 cash every day now through December 16th. Visit sportclips.com/holiday to register for your chance to win. Sport Clips, it's good to be a guy, especially during the holidays. No purchase necessary. Ends 12/16. Must be 18 or older to enter. Subject to official rules at sportclips.com/holiday. Void where prohibited.
Scott Burnside, ESPN.com here on the latest edition of Hockey Today, the podcast. We hear from Jack Eichel of the Buffalo Sabres. Glenn Healy drops by to talk Olympics. And Bob Hartley drops by to talk about what he's up to these days.
Oklahoma has won 9 straight, the Big 12 title, and are ranked 7th in the nation. 14th ranked Auburn awaits. The All-State Sugar Bowl, Monday, January 2nd at 8:30 Eastern on ESPN and on ESPN Radio.